We kick things off with a shady dream, but then our hero wakes up after living out his fantasy. It turns out that he was playing a game, and he might have fallen asleep while doing so. The name of this game is Valkyria Chronicles, and our hero sure seems to like it because he was halfway done with the whole story as well. Even though this is a virtual reality game, our hero feels tired, almost as if he was actually acting out his intrusive thoughts on the cute girls he was seeing in his dream. Suddenly, a stat board shows up in front of him, and he has no idea how this has happened. It seems to be the same one that's in the game, but the character being displayed is not the one that our hero had chosen. He tries to log out of the game, but it doesn't seem to be working. This is a problem because the gamer boy has to leave for work, and the game seems to be experiencing some kind of bug. The worst part is that the screen doesn't even have a logout button, which makes the whole thing seem shady. Now, our hero gets a notification stating that he has mail, so he decides to check it out. We learn that his name is Canon, as can be seen in the mail, and it thanks him for something he has done, which he does not know of. Canon is also congratulated for something, so he decides to read it properly to get a better idea of his current situation. This is where things become a bit strange. We learn that our hero has been reincarnated in another world from a parallel universe, which is very far from Earth. It's because the person writing the mail had created a maze game called Dungeon Seed a long time ago. It happens to be another game that Canon was playing. And since he was able to clear all the missions, the data he collected was amazing and valuable. We learn that the person who sent this mail is actually a god named Gaia, who is of this world which is also like Earth. In order to show some appreciation, Gaia had decided to reincarnate Canon into this world the moment he lost his life back on the original Earth. In this new life, Canon will have to deal with monsters and other creatures, because this fantasy world is a mixture of Valkyria Chronicles and Dungeon Seed. Luckily, Canon will be blessed with all the spells, magic, and power that he had possessed in both those games. Gaia continues to explain that the gods of Canon's world had also approved of this reincarnation, so there's no need to worry about the details. One last thing to remember though, is that Canon has already left his old world, and even his body has decomposed there, so he has no way of returning back to Earth. There's a shield surrounding Canon right now, but it isn't free, so Gaia has made sure to give our hero some useful skills which will help him earn a living. Canon checks out the photo that Gaia has left behind for him, and is shocked to see that she is a cute girl with a curvy body. Our hero takes some time to get used to the fact that he has been reincarnated, but then he dresses up into his robe and goes downstairs. He's in a hotel, and the owner tells him that breakfast is already done, so she will have to charge him if he wishes to eat anything. Canon doesn't mind, and he orders for a nice meal, after which he asks for the bill. However, to his surprise, he notices that his money gets paid back into his fantasy world account. This reminds him of the golden rule that he had come across while playing most of his other games. Basically, this rule states that our hero will not need to pay for anything at all. As a matter of fact, even if he does end up paying for an item, then the money gets paid back into his account. It also might have something to do with what Gaia had mentioned in the message. After all, Canon does have a whole new set of skills which he can use to his advantage. Now that the formalities are done with, Canon sits down to enjoy his food, and he starts with some bread that tastes much better than he had expected. Our hero finishes his meal, and then he figures that he should explore the city and get as much information as he can. He cleans up after his food and decides to head straight towards the guild headquarters. We learn that the name of this kingdom is Elsalis, and the name of the capital is Eldoria. Canon enters the guild headquarters, and he notices all the receptionists talking to people who want to go on adventures. He finds an empty spot with an old man, so he goes to him and mentions that it's his first time here. The reception man asks him if he wants to register or be hired for a task, and our hero says that he needs to get himself registered before doing anything else. The old man gets to work and hands over a form to Canon where he will have to give his name and his specialization. On top of that, he will also need to sign a seal in the sheet in order to complete his registration. The old man is actually a bit shocked to see that Canon did not go to the cute girl in the other counter. He even tells our hero that he has wasted a chance to get with her. However, Canon is a master of this game, so he knows all the tricks that come with it. He says that waiting in line at the other counter would simply be a waste of his time, because he has come here to become an adventurer. He hasn't been with a girl in a very long time, so it makes sense for him not to try for one right now. The old man is pleased to hear this and agrees with everything that Canon has said. He goes on to loudly declare that this is an adventurer's guild and not a place for boys and girls to flirt. He also reveals his name to be Garand, who is an important member of staff in this guild. He offers his hand to Canon, but our hero is a bit wary of shaking hands with a stranger so soon in this world. Garand is impressed once again, but Kanon says that he's actually extra careful in general, which is why he doesn't have any friends. He checks out Garand's stats but learns that he has used camouflage to block all his skills. Now, Garand tells Kanon that he should probably choose a task that would sorcery because he's assuming that's what our hero's skills are. Kanon is confused to hear this, but then he realizes that Garand might be saying this because he's seen his robe. The guildman tells our hero that he should start off with some easy tasks to test his ability. He goes on to suggest a quest that involves collecting herbs, but also asks Kanon not to lose his life in the process. After all, the most important thing is to keep yourself safe first. As expected, Kanon is not pleased to hear this because he's not the type to go around collecting herbs. However, he does recall that all his games had started out the same way as well, only to become spicier later on. Garand reminds our hero that if he does decide to abandon his mission, then he should try to give away the herbs he's collected to the other adventurers who might need them. At the end of the day, it's the one who delivers the goods that takes the prize. Either way, it'll serve as practice for Kanon, even though he's a master of his craft. With that, our hero bids farewell to Garand and sets out on his mission. He laments that fact that he has to do such a simple task, but there is no other way around it, so he will have to comply. He heads over to the forest area and begins his quest for the medicinal herbs. It takes a while, but Kanon is finally able to get what he has come for. His back hurts, but at least his mission was a success, and now he can test out a couple of things. He takes a look at some buffaloes grazing nearby and wonders which one of them will be his target. He chooses one that looks a little tasty and begins his testing process. Basically, the only reason why Kanon is staying back in the forest is to see what the goddess Gaia has given him. It makes sense, because he can then use his powers to their best advantage. He needs to take a look at all the stats being shown on his screen, and then he clears his mind to launch a proper move. With no one around, our hero does not have to worry about getting caught, and is free to do as he pleases, so he summons a small piece of rock in his hand. He launches this rock straight at the buffalo that he had chosen earlier. As expected, he lands a bullseye on the target and takes it down with just one shot. Even Kanon is unable to believe what he has just done, because he wanted to kick things off just by scaring the buffalo. As of now, Kanon has figured that his skill of throwing has way too much power, so he has to set the MP to a decent number to ensure he doesn't end up using it often. He has another problem on his hands, which is the fact that the other buffaloes are not too pleased with what he has just done to their friend. Normally, this would be the end of the road for a normal adventure, but that's not what Kanon is about. He decides to take on the buffaloes, and he starts with his fire magic. Our hero unleashes his flame bullets upon the animals, but it only takes one of them to cause an explosion so massive that it can take down an army of dragons as well. The devastation on display is of a whole other level, so Kanon feels a bit awkward after what he's just done. He does not get why there is so much extra damage because he only used a basic skill here. However, the flames are spreading fast, and more buffaloes have come to the scene after noticing what happened to the previous herd. Our hero wonders what he should do here, because he doesn't want to risk another fire bullet on these beasts. The buffaloes charge at Kanon, so it's not like he can just stand there, so he decides to attack them one after the other with his bare hands. As he continues to destroy the buffaloes, Kanon realizes that he's not at rank B or rank A, but rather at rank SS, which is the highest form of magic. He manages to take down enough buffaloes to scare the others into running away, and he thinks about how one of his S-rank spells can cause more damage than thousands of lower-rank spells. He figures that he should try to only use C-rank spells unless he is up against a superhuman enemy. With his mission completed, Kanon heads back to the city so that he can give up the herbs and get his bounty. However, when he arrives, he can see a lot of slaves who are moving to another flea market. He figures that a slave trade is going to happen, which means that lots of cute girls will be on display. He notices one such girl standing out amongst all the others, and she is curvy beyond imagination, so Kanon lets his intrusive thoughts break free. He gazes at all the cute slave girls and then thinks back to the mail he got from Goddess Gaia. He goes through all the points she had mentioned, and what stands out the most is that he does not have a mission to save the world over here. This means he can truly live his life the way he wants to, without having to worry about innocent lives. Essentially, he can be an adventurer for fun. And now the cute image from Gaia makes more sense. Our hero has finally found his purpose in this new life, and it is to make every cute girl his slave, so that he can build a harem and keep them all in a dungeon. We move some time further into the future, where our hero comes across a giant cave which is known to be a nest for goblins. It turns out that Kanon has to do this quest because when he accidentally took the lives of all those buffaloes, his rank increased directly to C. Getting rid of goblins is a C-rank mission, but Kanon has no desire to do it at all. In order to understand how this whole thing came about, we are taken to a few days before this moment in a flashback. We see Garand, who tells our hero that he has no other choice but to give him this goblin quest because he has become a rank C adventurer now. Kanon asks if he can say no to this mission, but the guildman says that he can only do so if he has a good enough reason. On top of that, if he is to refuse the request of a guild master, then he can be stripped of his status as an adventurer too. Since there is no other option, Kanon will have to fill out the request form, but he makes a fussy face while doing so. It turns out that the target place is actually a day's walk away from the royal capital, as it is located within the depths of the forest area. Some people were sent to deal with the goblins before, but none of them came back, which is a bit odd, because these goblins have not harmed or attacked any of the villagers nearby. Garen now tells Kanon that his registration will be deleted if he says no, which was why he now has to do his research for this task. Our hero wonders why Garen would give him a task like this one, and believes it might be due to the fact that he doesn't like his face. Anyway, Kanon wants to see cute girls, but he must keep his focus if he is to succeed in this mission. After all, the only thing that he should take care of is his guild card, which is like a free access pass to all the areas of the kingdom. The main problem, though, is that he will never be able to build his harem of cute girls if he keeps doing adventures like this. Garen allows Kanon to calm down for a bit, and then he tries to make him feel better by saying he does not need to fight the goblins. Kanon only has to investigate the nest and check if there are actually goblins inside or if something suspicious is going on. He is free to escape from the scene if he gets caught up in a dangerous situation. Now, we are back to the present where Kanon has finally entered the cave to check out the nest. He goes through the whole of the first floor, but doesn't find anything of use. He turns on his map skill to navigate through the cave, and then he enters the second floor. This is when his stat screen shows him the presence of two other people, named Arisia and Rina. Kanon can't figure why they're here, but he can see that their HP and MP are almost over, which means that they could be fighting against some goblins. Kanon finally activates his hero mode and rushes to the scene in order to help out these girls. He reaches just in the nick of time, and we can see that the girls are both cute and curvy. They both notice the presence of another person, and before they know it, Kanon is slicing down goblins with ease. Our hero takes down a whole gang of goblins within a few seconds, so some of the survivors try to attack him from behind. The girls notice this, so they call out to Kanon in order to warn him of the sneak attack. But this is not needed due to the fact that our hero has special weapons as well. He takes down the goblins with a reverse shot and points out that his weapons are making the difference here. Kanon explains the usefulness of each of these weapons with the danger gone and the girls saved. They both bow down to Kanon for saving their lives. However, the night girl Rina senses something off and takes out her sword. She warns Arisia not to let her guard down just yet because Kanon is dressed in shady fashion. Our hero tries to tell the girls that all is well, but he realizes that he's using his voice camouflage move. He clears out the confusion and assures the girls that they are in safe hands now. Arisia is upset with Rina for accusing Kanon right after he saved their lives. After all, he could have just let the goblins have their fun if he wanted to harm the girls. The night girl admits her mistake and apologizes to our hero, after which she thanks him once again for his services. Now, Arisia makes an introduction as the princess of this kingdom, and her body is curvier than Rina's. Our hero knows her from the games he's played before, especially Dungeon Seed, where she is actually a villain who gets in the way of the hero exploring the dungeon. She can also be called Ari, and her body is so curvy that she always stands out from all the other characters of the game. At the same time, she is a magician who uses her powers to get her way in any situation. Rina also happens to be a character in Dungeon Seed, and she is quite curvy as well, which is why she is quite popular with a lot of gamers. She is Ari's bodyguard and a master swordswoman who comes from a duchess's family. The cute girls now decide to tell Kanon how they ended up here in the first place. It so happens that they had come to this cave with a hero named Albat and his sister Yuria. Ari was given some spirit rituals by her family, and she had to set up a spirit's altar as per the royal family's demands. By this time, the news of the goblin nest had reached everywhere, so the village nearest to the cave was worried. Their village chief sent in a request to the guild for some help, but Albat let his impulses take over and he rushed into the cave without even thinking about a plan of action. He does have a holy sword with him, but that is not going to be of much help if you don't know how to use it. Now that Kanon knows exactly what has gone down, he mocks Ari and Rina for being silly. He says it's common for people to know that goblins work very well when they are in groups, even though they might be weak when alone. It simply does not make sense to go and attack them inside their own nest, as it would only do more harm than good. Our hero even laments the fact that he ended up wasting his time on such silly girls. He goes on to say that he should have just turned a blind eye to the girls, but this is luckily said in his mind. Even so, Rina doesn't like what he has in mind, but the night girl says that the holy sword is her family's treasure and she needs to get it back no matter what the cost may be. Honestly, Kanon only wants to complete the quest and report it back to the guild. But now he has more tasks cut out for him. His intrusive thoughts take over and he imagines having both Ari and Rina as part of his harem. After all, our hero wants to become a dungeon master, so he will need some cute slaves to give him company. He can only think of round, curvy objects, but manages to keep these thoughts to himself for now. Canon now teams up with the girls and tells them that he is in charge now. He will give the orders now, so he wonders what kind of boss goblin awaits him at the end of this nest. There are 3 types of bosses he can encounter, and they are Emperor, General, Lord, and King. First of all, he will need to check the stats of Ari and Rina, because they have lost almost 40% of their HP and are also poisoned due to their encounter with the goblin boss. He is shocked to learn that the girls have come here without any antidote or medicine to combat the poison of the goblins. When he asks them about it, they simply say that they didn't have any time to prepare for it. The girls might be cute and curvy, but they are also dumb and silly for not being this vigilant. Canon scolds them and says that they should have at least taken a healer and a carrier along with them for this mission if they wanted to succeed. The princess girl has nothing to say, but Rina explains that both Albat and Yuria had said no to this quest, but were forced to accept it due to the political pressure from a certain congregation. The night girl mentions their name to be the Upataris, and this catches our hero's attention. He is not too pleased to hear this name because he has come across them before when he had played his games. It's a tricky situation for him, but he has to fulfill his dream of violating cute girls, and he has a great chance here with Ari and Rina. He checks out his stat screen and notices 3 life forms nearby. The location is close to the innermost room of the cave, so the trio decides to get to work. They rush to the scene and find Yuria, who is not in a very good state. Rina and Ari tend to her while Canon checks her stats and learns that she has been poisoned to the point where she only has 10% of her HP left. He wonders how Albat is doing and is surprised to see that the apparent hero is unable to win against a goblin boss even though he has a holy sword with him. He also takes a look at the goblin boss and figures that he's dealing with a general here. Canon figures that the general goblin has a skill known as physical art, which makes it very strong. On the other hand, Albat is shown to be weak, and even the holy sword in his hand is not suited for this kind of combat. Even so, the name of this sword is Stormblinger, and it is known to have the power to destroy every kind of evil in this world. Sadly for Albat, the power of the sword is sealed, which is why he can't do much against the goblin general. Of course, Canon is going to save his life, but he must also be careful to avoid any kind of mistake. He turns on hero mode and tells the girls to take care of Yuria while he handles the goblin general. Suddenly, the beast smacks Albat away and it looks like the apparent hero has met his end. However, upon closer inspection, he is alive, but barely. Now that Albat has been dealt with, Canon decides to take on the goblin, but the monster turns his attention to Ari and the girls. At first, it might seem that the goblin general has intrusive thoughts of his own, but then we realize that he is unable to see Canon due to his hidden spell. This surprises our hero because he thought that the boss would be skilled enough to detect him. Despite his disappointment, Canon wants to make a decent fight out of this. So he stops the hidden spell and shows himself to the goblin general. It tries to attack him at full force, but this does not bother our hero at all, and he simply smacks his enemy's sword away and proceeds to smash him away. As expected, Rina and Ari are blown away by his skills, because this is also physical art. They actually can't even figure if Canon is using his hands or a hidden weapon, but none of that matters because the goblin general is barely able to stand up now. Canon strikes a pose to mock his enemy, and it only incites the monster boss to attack him one more time. He thinks he's gotten a strike in, but it does nothing to our hero and he activates savage mode after this. Within the blink of an eye, Canon slices through the goblin general as if his head was a block of cheese. With that, the monster finally falls to the ground and the girls just stand there in shock and amazement. They are still just standing and staring, but our hero doesn't have time to waste, so he says that the mission is completed now. The group decides to head back to the main village where everyone is glad to see all of them alive. As expected, Garand is also here and he greets Canon with a smile on his face. He does not know what has happened to Albat, but that doesn't even matter to him at this point. All he cares about is Ari because she is the princess, but Canon believes that Albat is actually a very shady man. After all, he is just acting like a lazy guard and causing harm to the ones he is supposed to keep safe from harm. Anyway, Canon doesn't want to be around him anymore, so he says goodbye to the girls. This makes both Ari and Rina feel a bit weird and Garand notices this as well. Canon has no idea of what's going on, but Garand simply says that the princess must be tired after all the stress she had gone through today. She needs to get some rest and prepare for the spirit rituals the next day anyway. Garand now tells Canon that he should not leave so soon, as he has something he would like to show him. They go to a cabin cottage where Canon explains that Ari got into danger due to the fact that Albat got too excited. He was the one who ended up saving the girls, and Garand is thankful to him for that. He also learns of the Upataris being involved, and he figures it was all a greedy scheme put together by the congregation men. The way Garand is speaking gives Kanon an idea of what he's going to ask from him, so he confirms that he will have to guard the cute girls till the ceremony. Garand can sense that our hero is not too pleased with this task, so he asks him about it. Kanon knows that he doesn't have much of a choice, so he will protect the curvy princess from danger. However, he does need some kind of motivation to keep doing these tasks. Otherwise, he will have no joy left in his life. Garand knows what he means, so he offers to raise Kanon's rank to B for his efforts. On top of that, he will reward our hero with 10 million Gs, which is like the currency of this world. Kanon has no issues when it comes to money. But he does want to take on more interesting quests, so the idea of getting a rank promotion works in his favor. He accepts the job, and then we see Ari asking her teacher to take care of her. Of course, she is referring to our hero because he is also a mage, which puts her under his category. Being called the sensei of a princess does have a nice ring to it, so Kanon doesn't mind the attention from his curvy disciple. We move to the nighttime now, where our hero is busy warming up a fire. Meanwhile, Ari, Rina, and Yuria have a cute bath together and gossip about our hero. Now, we move back to our hero who is missing out on some amazing action if he would have just let his intrusive thoughts take over. However, he doesn't mind sitting in front of the fire and being the guard to 3 cute girls. He never did this in his previous life, so it's a nice experience for him. Albat is shown to be sleeping and snoring, which only provokes our hero because he thinks the fake hero is a useless piece of trash who should be ended. However, there is no point in doing such a thing to a useless man because he is most likely just a scam hero who has been sent by the Yupataris. It looks like there is some kind of power struggle going on, so it doesn't make sense to end Albat just yet. After all, Kanon needs to find out the main brains behind this whole operation. Now, our hero lets his intrusive thoughts take over while worrying about Rina and Ari. Basically, they will be targets at the congregation, so Kanon will need to do something to keep them protected. One thing that comes to his mind is that both Rina and Ari are unmarried, which means that he can detect their presence with a special spell. Kanon takes a lot of time to prepare his plan, because he knows he can't mess it up with so many plays in place. He holds the holy sword and senses something wrong with it, which is somewhat similar to a sensation he has felt before. He moves it around for a bit and finally manages to understand something about it. Kanon says that it is very important to take note of this, especially because of his reincarnation into another world. With that, Kanon figures that he must do his best to ensure his future wives have a comfy bath right now as per his twisted fantasy. Now, it's time for us to get some context so that we can understand the spirit ceremony a bit better. Basically, it is a hereditary ritual of the royal family which is performed in order to receive the protection of the Holy Spirits. Whenever a person of royal blood reaches the age of 15, they must go to the spirit tree to perform this ritual. However, due to the odd actions of the Empire and the recent arrival of the fake hero Albat, the Covenant has come to a standstill. This is why it's up to our real hero to plant the saplings of the spirit tree in a suitable area for his cute girl. But the ancient covenant violated now, the requests of the spirit tree need to be carried out, and Kanon does so with ease. He goes to Garen the next day to tell him that he has done what was asked of him, so the guildman thanks him but also says that he looks forward to seeing him again. This is not good news for Kanon, so he decides to be calm and walk away before he is hit with more quests. At that very moment, Princess Ari shows up looking cute and innocent. She wants Kanon to reconsider her request of him traveling with her and Rina. This is an offer too good to refuse. But our hero fights his intrusive thoughts and simply thanks Ari for speaking so kindly to a low-life adventurer like himself. He explains that their paths are just too different. Kanon asks for forgiveness and continues on his journey, but Albat has something to say. Since he has informed the guild about the status of the quest and Princess Ari's safety, it would make sense for them to return to the city for now and report their findings to the king. Rina agrees with him even though it's a pity that they will not get to travel with Kanon anymore. With this statement, everyone else in the group agrees that one magician should be more than enough, and Kanon should not be needed for such a simple task. It can't be helped, so the team heads to the palace. Before that, Princess Ari bids farewell to Kanon and hopes to see him again so that she can learn more from him. Our hero is an alpha male, so he doesn't show any signs of affection, but Garand is a bit surprised by the way he has dealt with this situation. After all, this was a great chance for Kanon to get promoted to a royal magician. Kanon thinks with a straight mind, so he explains that the life of a royal boy inside a palace is not what he's made for. Also, he would never want to breathe the same air as Albat, because he is a totally useless guard. Garand sees sense in what he says, so Kanon finally leaves for good, but not without hearing that he will be called upon again when there is a new mission. Of course, this situation with Albin is far from over, so Kanon decides to use his brain for some time. He figures that the fake hero is the heir of a baron and has been engaged to the daughter of an aristocrat ever since he was a kid. His sister Yuria, on the other hand, just seems to be a girl with a brother complex. It's at this moment where he realizes that maybe letting Albat and his sister team up with Rina and Ari could lead to more problems. After all, the fake hero did leave his fiancée back at home just so that he could follow Ari around. It's time to do the math because Ari is a princess and Rina is the daughter of a duke. Not just that, her father happens to be one of the 3 most powerful Grand Dukes of this kingdom. This means that there is a lot of power resting above these curvy girls. However, our hero is nothing compared to the status of these girls because he is just a normal boy in this world, even though he has powers matching those of a god. He doesn't have a home or even a title, so it would normally not make any sense to travel with such high-profile babes. Kanon wonders if he should use some tricks to become a noble, but decides against it because it is not the right way forward. He activates demon mode and says that he will create his own dungeon and then make these girls kneel in front of him, as if they are his slaves. Kanon also tells us that this world is very similar to Dungeon Seed, which had actually crashed in the real world a few months ago. In that game, this group of 4 were all the villains, and this includes the curvy girls as well. Since our hero had cleared the game back on Earth, he has a fair idea of what these characters might end up doing. Also, if they are within his range, then the light spirit's protection will also be rendered ineffective. He starts to sound a bit of a shady character when he says that he is going to lure this team into his dungeon and separate them one after the other, eventually capturing them all and making them his slaves. Of course, the main aim is to build a dungeon where he can act on all his intrusive thoughts, but Kanon also wants to get a taste of Albat's future wife. He goes back to his inn and learns that he has received a letter in his room. Kanon was not expecting to hear this, so he decides to check out what he's got. He also realizes that he had a slave market to attend, but got distracted by the mission involving the goblin nest. He is finally able to enter one now, and he sees lots of cute girls being put up for sale. They are referred to as goods, and the only people that can be seen are filthy rich nobles. Kanon doesn't appreciate the look and feel of this place, so he figures he won't take much time here. All he has to do is find a girl who catches his attention the same way Ari and Rina did. Suddenly, he comes across a total babe, and it's the same girl whom he had seen last time. Our hero is not going to just stand there and wait, so he goes to the curvy girl and asks for some help. The girl does not respond to him, so Kanon is left feeling a bit awkward. He tries to reach out to her again and again, but with no luck. Finally, he says that he won't take much of her time, so the least she can do is turn to him and reveal her cute face. The slave girl finally listens to Kanon, but implies that there's nothing she can do to help him out here. She seems to recognize our hero from last time, so she pauses for a second and he notices this. Kanon is glad that such a curvy girl has remembered his face, so he recalls the time they first saw each other. The slave girl states that it was when she was being taken away, and that's when an idea strikes Kanon. He makes an odd face and starts talking about how he does not have a very memorable look. He even goes on to say that he is not an interesting person at all, which means that the slave girl has a great sense of memory. The slave girl is a bit shocked to see such an overpowered hero acting this way, but Kanon continues with his baby act and whines about how such cute girls have such bad taste in men. On top of that, these odd men have odd hobbies as well, which makes it even worse for Kanon. The slave girl blushes, and that's when we learn that she is actually a character that he had created himself in the game. As expected, he went to great lengths to create her perfect body, so there is no way he can forget her. This makes him wonder if Gaia had intentionally left this slave girl here for him. Kanon can't stop his intrusive thoughts because he keeps staring at her for obvious reasons. He can never get bored of doing this, especially since the slave girl was awarded with being one of the top 3 customized characters in the game. The slave girl asks Kanon what kind of question he had for her, so he proceeds to say it. Our hero asks the slave girl why she isn't running away because he knows she has enough power to do so. Kanon had checked her fighting stats and learned that she is good enough to be his sidekick. It is a huge mystery that she is allowing herself to suffer this way when she has such amazing stats. The slave girl just sits there feeling shy, so Kanon asks her if she's even listening to him. He goes on to ask a rather sensitive question, and this makes her blush. This is when she finally reveals that she can't do anything because she is a slave. As per the rules, she can only sit here and wait until someone comes and buys her. Our hero can't believe what he is hearing, because it sounds rather funny. The slave girl points to a slave collar on her neck and reveals that it defines her fate. Kanon figures that she has accepted her fate, so it makes more sense to him now. The slave girl continues by saying she does not have any of the things that a normal girl would have. There are no friends, family members, or even a hometown to run back to, so all she can do is wait for her master to come and buy her. This strikes a chord with our hero because she reminds him of his own past life. He actually has no memories of his old life on Earth because Gaia had made sure to erase all of them. He has a thought in his head, but remains silent, so the slave girl asks him why he isn't saying anything. Our hero calmly decides to walk away from the scene and apologizes to the slave girl for wasting her time. She feels some kind of passion for him, so she asks him to wait, but Canon leaves the scene by then. Now, it's time to kick off the auction with all the curvy girls up for grabs. Even Canon is seen striking a pose while trying to act like an alpha male. We take a look at slave number 11, and she happens to be among the top 3 demi-human slaves in this world. She is the curviest out of all her sisters, which is why her bid starts at 10 million fantasy dollars. It's time to start the bidding war. And as expected, the customers go crazy with their bids. The amount goes from 10 million to 130 million in no time. But this is only the beginning for this slave girl. She is clearly not happy with her presence at the auction, but there's nothing she can do about it. The slave girl is eventually sold for 150 million fantasy dollars to a bald man who makes a shady face. Canon is amazed to see him because he is very old, but even then, he has enough passion to act on his intrusive thoughts. However, the slave girl panics upon seeing the bald man, which means that she is fearing the worst with him. Now, Canon assesses the situation and reminds us that he is looking for slaves who can help him capture the fake hero Albat's fiancé. He will need to travel for a while to get to his target zone. And when he does that, he will basically be starting a war. Looking at the slave girl, Canon can sense that she has useful abilities which he will need for his mission, so it would be a waste to pass her by like this. The look on her face makes our hero feel even worse for her, but it's time to look at the final item of the day, and she is quite a catch. The auction man announces her as having long platinum hair, smooth skin without a single blemish, and bright emerald eyes as well. She is none other than the slave girl who was created by Canon's intrusive thoughts, and it turns out that she is actually a dark elf girl. The shady bald man wastes no time and instantly offers 200 million fantasy dollars for her. It seems like an easy win, but then someone counters him with $300 million. The bald man thinks this person is joking, but that isn't the case. So he raises the bid by $10 million. As expected, this bidding competitor is Canon himself, and he counters with $400 million. The elf girl can't believe her eyes because Conan is technically the man of her dreams. She looks at him with intent in her eyes, because our hero is surely going to be her savior in this story. Of course, this can only happen if he actually wins the auction. The bidding war continues as the bald man states $450 million, which should sound like a good deal. However, even this amount does nothing to sway Conan away, because he instantly counters the offer with $600 million. It's easy for him to do this because he has made a lot of money completing his missions, especially the ones where Princess Ari was involved. Even so, this is an amazing display of wealth, so the auction man asks if anyone else would like to offer a higher price for the elf girl. The bald man starts to sweat because he knows he cannot offer more money, especially because he has already paid so much money for the earlier slave girl. He has to accept defeat in front of everyone. And with that, the elf girl is officially sold to our hero for the ridiculous price of 600 million fantasy dollars. Things kick off instantly between Canon and the elf girl as he tests out her powers on one of the guards who had been sent to attack them, probably for stealing the bald man's target girl. She takes him down with ease, and it pleases our hero to see that his money has been spent wisely. The elf girl asks Canon what they are going to do next, and it looks like they'll be heading back to his base. However, there is one more thing that Canon needs to do, and he wants to act fast. We shift to a carriage where the bald man calls his new slave girl Yummy, which means that a rescue mission might be in the works. Suddenly, the elf girl says some odd words, so our hero asks her if all is well. She says that it's not what it seems like because these are the names of the people who had hired the guards to attack them. The only things on Canon's mind are the 2 bouncing hills in front of him, but he eventually comes to his senses and figures one of the names to be Goria, which sounds like a marquee. Our hero realizes that Goria might be the name of the bald man who tried to have him attacked, and now he wants to get back at him for what he did. He also congratulates his new slave girl on doing her job well. She has a cute smile on her face, which is good for our hero because he had thought that it might be a task to talk to her. As a matter of fact, her face glows up because of this compliment. The elf girl asks Canon what it was that he wanted to do, and he acts forgetful for a second. Then, he suddenly says that they need to stock up on necessities because they have a long journey ahead of them. The elf girl gets an introduction from her new master, and finally reveals her name to be Shira. She is a descendant of the dark elf clan known as Zard, so she is definitely a capable fighter. Now that the formalities are out of the way, Canon tells her that she will need to follow him and keep up with his speed as well. After all, he is going to teach the bald man a lesson for trying to act smart with him. Now, we shift back to the carriage where the bald man is staring at his new slave girl. His intrusive thoughts get the better of him and he keeps fantasizing about what he is going to do to her. He also expects to have Shira as well because of the assassins he had hired to get rid of Kanon. He actually wants to have our hero's head, or even torture him alive for making fun of him at the auction. After all, to be humiliated like that in front of so many people is pretty bad for a man like him. Anyway, there is no point thinking about such things, so he would like to enjoy some dessert before he gets to the main course. He calls out to the slave girl and tells her to sit on his lap. She clearly does not want to do this, but since she is a slave, she has no other choice. She proceeds to do as he says, and what follows is not a very pleasant sight. The bald man asks her not hold back her voice, but she is very embarrassed by what's going on. Things are about to go from bad to worse, but then the both of them are interrupted by a sudden force that approaches the carriage. It is none other than our hero Kanon, who is moving at super speed to keep up with the vehicle. He jumps over the carriage and causes it to stop, which makes the bald man anxious. He wants to continue with his shady acts, but wants to know why everything has come to a standstill. It's at this moment when someone from outside says that it's an ambush. The bald man sticks his head out of the carriage window and asks what's going on. One of his men reveals that there might be bandits ahead of them, because the escorts in front have been attacked. He asks his boss to stay inside the carriage and let them handle the commotion. The guard men rush ahead and plan to get rid of the bandits using teamwork. However, when they see one of the escorts running towards them, they notice that he is getting slashed in front of their eyes. The guards watch on in shock and disbelief as the escort falls into pieces, and in front of them is Kanon, who is in demon mode. The guards try to threaten our hero, but it's of no use as he jumps high up into the air to escape their line of vision. He uses this skill to tear into the guards one after the other without them even realizing what they're up against. Eventually, only one man remains, so he asks Kanon why he doesn't show himself. This is all in panic, so he tries to run away, but Kanon shows up from behind and tells him not to shout so much. He decides to mock the guardman some more because he was the one who issued the threat in the first place. Our hero grabs his victim from behind and is about to slice him to bits, but first, he asks him to repeat what he said earlier about taking his life. The guardman has nothing to say, so Kanon holds his knife close to a rather sensitive spot. The guardman says please, but our hero can't hear what he's saying at all. He continues to mock the guardman, who begs for his life like a little girl, but it's too late for such a request. The guardman says that he had taken this job for a reason, which was to provide for his family. He has kids and a mother to take care of, and he was only doing this because he was hired by the bald noble. Kanon lets the guardman believe that he is going to spare his life, and then slashes his head off without any care in the world. It's time to go to the carriage, where the bald man begins to panic once again. There is no noise coming from outside, so he wonders what has gone down. His anxiety is through the roof, and that's when he reveals that he is indeed the Marquee of Goria. The only fate for offending such a noble is the life sentence. So Goria wants to know what kind of bandits are after him. He calls out to his guardmen and tells them to bring the heads of the bandits to him. However, he has it all wrong because there is only one attacker and he is most definitely not a bandit. Kanon takes this as his chance to make an entrance, and he ensures that he makes a mark by keeping the head of the guardman he just attacked in his hand. Our hero opens the door to the carriage and can see what Goria has been doing to the cute slave girl. He realizes that he is walking in on someone else having fun, so he says sorry for the intrusion. Obviously, Goria is in a state of fear now because in front of him is an overpowered warrior in demon mode. Now, Kanon shows himself in all his scary might, especially with the head of the guard, and he asks the noble Goria if he can borrow a few moments of his time. How is our hero going to deal with Goria? Also, is he going to make his slave girl his new toy, just like Shira? Before we continue to what happens to the bald man, we move back in time to see what Kanon was doing when he caught up to the carriage. At this point, our hero started to strategize on how he would end up rescuing the slave girl Goria, whose actual name is Anaria. He was also considering adding her to his harem along with Shira, because her curvy body is every man's dream. Kanon figured that the carriage in the middle had to be the one with Anaria and the shady bald man, because the escort carriages are always in front and behind. This was all he needed to assess, because his next plan was to make sure the shameless noble got what he deserved. It turned out that one of the guards actually spoke about how the bald man had no end to his intrusive thoughts. This is because he is known to purchase slave girls as many times as he possibly can. Of course, the other guard told him to keep his mouth shut, otherwise they won't get paid for their services. Suddenly, the horses stopped, and the men tried to figure out what went wrong. The horses got shocked because something had fallen right in front of them, and it turned out to be the body of one of the escort guards. Seeing this, the men started to panic, and one of them tried to alert the guards at the back. But then he saw that his own colleague's head got chopped off. As the guard tried to make sense of this situation, he turned back around and saw our hero sitting on top of the carriage with the head of his colleague in his hand. Kenan was asked for his identity, but he only smiled while tossing aside the head of his victim, and this led to an alert being sounded. What followed was the massacre we saw earlier, and now we are back to the present where Kenan is taking an area away from the shady bald man. Despite not having any leverage on his side, the bald man calls out to Kenan and says that he should not be stealing his slave. Of course, Kenan does not even bother to respond to him. But then the bald man calls out to the lone surviving guard and tells him to end our hero in exchange for a handsome reward. The bald man tries to paint a rosy picture by telling the survivor that no one will ever pay him such a huge sum, and this seems to be enough to push the survivor over to the dark side. Of course, Kenan is only surprised because he did not realize that he spared the life of one guard. Anyway, it doesn't matter to him because he is going to finish him off even as the guard tries to attack him. Our hero unleashes a brutal attack that slices the guard's whole body into tiny bits, and it only takes him a few seconds to get the job done. Kenan is very proud of what he has just done because it seems to be a replication of his favorite move. He then looks at the bald man with a shady smile, after which he is asked how he was able to end so many private guards. Kenan can only laugh and talk about how this is his favorite thing to do. If the bald man does not understand it, he's fine with it. But then he notices that someone else has come to the scene. He notices that it's Shira, who has made it quite quickly, even though she looks a bit tired from all the running. Kenan comments on how she has reached her so quickly, and then she says that she was only able to do so because of the shoes he has given her. Shira apologizes for taking too much time, but our hero is glad to see his slave girl being so proactive. He believes that she has reached sooner than he had expected her to, so it's all good. Now, he asks Shira to do him a favor, and then he hands over an area to her, so that she can take care of his new slave girl. Kenan has realized that the bald man may have used some substances to dull an area, so that she could do as he pleased. This is why it would be best for Shira to be with her for now, so that Kenan can have a word with her after she recovers. Our hero then tells his slave girl that he will be joining her a little later, as he has some unfinished business to deal with. Before the girls leave, Kenan also makes sure to claim the bald man's slave seal, so that he can have no further control over an area. This makes Shira happy, and then she is given permission to leave the scene with an area. Now that the men are alone, Kenan says it's time for them to have a conversation. Of course, this spooks out the bald man, and he has the look of terror on his face. Kenan teases him by asking what's wrong, and then he jokes around by saying the bald man should not make him too anxious. First, he explains why he did all these brutal things to take an area away from the bald man, which means he finally reveals that he was the one who defeated him in the auction. Kenan knows that the bald man had sent his assassins to take his life, and also steal Shira, so what he's doing her is nothing more than a bit of payback. Our hero tells the bald man that he should not have thought he would get away with such cheap tricks, and then he grabs his face. Kenan then says that this is a very rare opportunity for the bald man, because he is going to hear his biggest secret. Now, our hero tells him that he has already lost his life once, but he is not a zombie. He was simply reincarnated into this world by the ruling goddess. This implies that he wants to enjoy his life here and stay away from trouble. So anyone who is after his life is basically in for some bad news. The bald man is asked how he is feeling now that his life is about to end. It could be fear, trauma, or any other sensation. But the point is that the bald man wanted our hero to feel the same thing not too long ago. As expected, the bald man has no idea what Kenan is trying to tell him, so he asks if our hero has gone mad. Kenan states that he knows exactly what he's talking about because he has been through death before. Due to this, he feels more excited, especially as he toys with the bald man's life. As Kenan continues to talk about how his demon behavior plays into his learning, the bald man has nothing to say and is completely confused. Seeing that he has no other role to play here, our hero decides to finish off the bald man as soon as he can. He has never taken lives before, but since the goddess has allowed him to live a new life, he should try to behave differently. The bald man panics, but there is no escaping Kanon as he decides to relieve all his stress by ending him. Our hero strikes a scary pose as he asks the bald man how he would like him to finish his life. He also comments that the bald man has a knack for gaining enmity from others, so in all probability, he should be given vengeance. This feeling will come in handy for the baldy if he is ever to get reincarnated, but we will never know if that actually happens to anyone other than Kanon. Now, we move to the night time where Kanon is seen resting in bed at the safe house. He laments that ending other people to relieve his own stress has not worked out the way he would have wanted it to. We learn that he had used the dismember spell, which worked out, but also took a huge strain on his body. This is real life, and not a game that Kanon can play with a mouse and a keyboard, so he has to adjust accordingly. A lot of things have happened today, and one of them happens to be Kanon purchasing Shira as his slave girl. Our hero's intrusive thoughts are awakened once again, but he reminds himself that he can't force Shira to do anything shady with him. After all, if he ends up behaving this way, then he will not be any different from the bald man he just ended. It's at this very moment that our hero realizes that his body is still untouched in this world, and that is not a good thing for him at all. This is because he may not be able to control his elephant in front of Shira, and if he does whip it out, then he could turn out to be a one-pump chump. It would be rather embarrassing for him if such a thing were to happen. And then he hears a knock on the door, which makes him panic. Regardless, Kanon becomes a bit serious and tells Shira to lock the door after she enters. Of course, he is panicking in his head while saying this, but he has to keep up a cool persona in front of his slave girl. Shira simply does as her master says, and she is looking quite tempting with her outfit. What follows is an interesting night for our hero. Kanon asks Shira why she has come to him so late at night, and he wonders if it's because she can't sleep by herself. The slave girl is about to provide her answer, but before she can do so, she notices something rising from below. At first, Kanon thinks that something is wrong with his feet, but then he notices that his elephant is standing up to say hi. It's rather instantaneous, so Kanon is impressed by his vigor. We can only imagine what happens next, but first, we are taken to a brief flashback some time before this incident. Our hero asks Shira and Anaria if they are done changing their clothes, and he also apologizes for not having anything more than normal t-shirts. The slave girls don't have a problem with this at all, because it is their first time being given proper clothes. Shira even says that she should be the one thanking her master for providing her with these t-shirts. She comments that it fits nicely against her curvy body, and she likes the design as well. Anaria, on the other hand, wants to know what's written on her own t-shirt, and it happens to be the words heavy charge. This is not too far off from describing her own soft pillows, and Kanon laments that these clothes are simply charging up his own intrusive thoughts. It's almost as if the girls are being given rewards for some game show. But our hero must control his shady desires, so he asks Shira to get the food ready. As she does this, Anaria asks Kanon to give an introduction. He does so instantly, and then she reveals that her family name is Fuon. Anaria also says that Kanon can refer to her as Anna, and that her father used to be a duke. As a matter of fact, she used to live in the royal capital with him because he had earned the respect of the king through his services. Anna's father was granted private land at first, but then he got married to a beast woman without the king's consent. This led to him getting deprived of his private land as well as his nobility privilege. Since Anna's mom was no more, she and her dad tried their hand at commercial business, and it was going well till a certain point. However, one failure in a big trade led to Anna's dad getting caught up in a massive circle of debt. He could not deal with it anymore, so he decided to take his own life, and this left Anna to work as a maid girl in order to pay off the debt her dad left behind. Canon does not find this to be very unique, as he has read lots of manga comics, where the cute girl ends up turning into a slave to pay off her family's debts. Having said that, Anna's story still sounds tragic. She also answered Canon's question with extra information, so it implies that she is a very obedient girl. Canon does a character study of Anna, and he believes that she is not the brightest bulb on the planet, but she does have a genuine personality. As a matter of fact, she could have been a lot livelier if she did not have to face such a harsh reality. After considering everything around him, Canon decides to offer a choice to Anna, and he says that she can either continue her life as someone else's slave, or she can become his own slave girl in addition to Shira. If she does this, then she can spend his reward money however she likes. Of course, Canon would never say no to such a curvy babe. But is he planning on doing shady things with both Shira and Anna?
Canon does tell Anna that she should definitely take her time to consider this decision, but he maintains that he will accept whatever she chooses. He then tells her that if she does not want to choose any of the options that he is providing her, then she should definitely leave his house. He also states that it would be better if Anna could give him her answer before tomorrow morning. Later on, Canon is served dinner by Shira, who apologizes for taking time. Our hero asks her and Anna where their rations are, but Shira says that the girls don't deserve to sit and eat with him because they are slaves. This is because of the low status given to slave girls, but Canon does not want to hear any of this. He is sick and tired of eating alone, so he tells his slave girls that they should eat together. He wants them all to enjoy their time together, at least when they are having meals, but he also feels sad that his girls need to be commanded to follow him. Our hero then begs both Shira and Anna not to make him order them to sit and eat with him. This shocks them, and then Canon says he will prepare some simple dishes for them. The girls should get to know each other in the meantime, and they are still trying to figure out why their master has given them so much leeway. As he prepares the meals for his slaves, Canon wonders why he is feeling so uncomfortable. This is probably because his current situation reminds him of the last time he was an escort for curvy babes, and it is just a reaction to his surroundings. Considering all of this, it would be best for him to do hidden jobs in the darkness to maintain the mystery around him. He does not know if he can get along well with his slave girls, but he does get a lot of overflowing feelings whenever he thinks of the girl he has just saved. What he is mainly feeling right now is regret over the sight of a cute girl shedding tears in front of him. Canon is familiar with this sight because of the memories of his past life. This was back when he could not deal with society any longer, which led to both his body and soul feeling as if they were being ripped apart. The last thing Canon remembers seeing is the face of a newly hired woman who had to put in extra hours and even work on the weekends. This left her face filled with tears, which is never a pleasant sight. The worst part is that our hero recalls never even wanting to help this poor girl back then. However, he did offer her support towards the end, which is why he can sense those feelings even now. Even though he himself was powerless and helpless in his past life, Canon still helped those in need. This time, he will be able to fulfill what he was never able to do before. Basically, our hero does not want to live a life full of regrets anymore. Now, he comes back to his girls with their food and asks them if they became acquainted in this much time. They say yes, so it's time to dig in. Canon tells Anna and Shira that their work performance relies heavily on the condition of their bodies, which is why it is important to eat food and get rest without pushing themselves too hard. Anna and Shira can both smell the fragrance from the dishes, and they comment on how it's been a while since they last got to enjoy a delicious meal. Canon feels as though he is missing something right now, but then he gets distracted when he sees Anna crying out of joy in front of him. He wants to know what the matter is, but it turns out that she simply finds the food to be delicious, which is why she is crying. Shira feels the same way, as she looks at her master and gives him a cute smile, which takes him aback for a moment. He realizes that he was awkwardly staring at his slave girls, so he says sorry and proceeds to eat his food as well. He then thanks them, although they ask him why he is saying that. After all, they should be the ones thanking him for giving them a chance at a second life. Anyway, Kanan wishes both his girls a happy meal before eating his food, and they ask him what this statement means. Shara wonders if this is some kind of cult ritual, but our hero says that it is simply a tradition from his original world. He tells them that they don't need to mind it, but they both also wish him the same to make their master feel better. Anna and Shara both smile at Kanan quite cutely, and it brings a smile to his face, but he needs to maintain his Sigma male persona, so he shrugs it off and focuses on his food. The slave girls wonder if they did it wrong, but Kanan simply says that they make him feel as if he is with his children. Anna and Shara can't believe it for a second, but then they realize that it's rather adorable for their master to consider them as his children. Later in the night, Shara comes to Kanan's room and it looks like they are both going to act on their intrusive thoughts. Kanan falls asleep after an intense session, but then he wakes up in some kind of heavenly garden. He wonders if he is dreaming right now, but then he gets greeted by someone else. It turns out to be an extremely cute and curvy babe who introduces herself as a goddess, meaning Kanan's new life just got a whole lot more interesting. At first, our hero can't believe what he is hearing and wonders if this girl is actually crazy for calling herself a goddess. However, the goddess simply lets out tears of joy and congratulates Kanan for being able to make it till this point. Kanan quickly realizes that this is the same girl he had seen in the first message when he came to this world. It's their first time seeing each other, but Kanan maintains that the goddess is actually a cosplay girl. Anyway, Kanan asks this goddess if her name is Gaia's, the great god of earth. He had originally thought that he would be meeting a male god, but instead, he has been given a rather pleasant treat. Gaia's confirms that she is indeed the person Kanan believes her to be, and she holds the life, chaos, and stability of this new world. She further explains that even though she is a goddess, she has the power to transform into a male god as well. This is probably why the people on Earth look at her as a man, but her focus now is on our hero. She explains that when she first brought Kanan to this world, she had a lot of work to do, so she could only send him a message. However, now that he has been able to progress so far and even clap the elf slave girl Shara, the both of them can finally meet in person. Kanan wants to ask Gaia's a question and he wants her to answer properly, so she says yes, but only as long as his question does not have anything to do with her age. The most important thing our hero wants to know is regarding his old body, which is from his past life. He knows that he has already passed away in that world, but he still wishes to know the state of his physical body. The goddess answers that Kanan has already been cremated and his body is turned to ashes. At the same time, she says that there is no need for him to worry so much about that body because he was just an otaku boy with no social life back then. There's no point for him to be thinking about the old world. But Kanan does not appreciate Gaia's trying to act funny regarding his passing. The goddess wonders if our hero still wants to return to his old world, to which he says yes and asks for help. Unfortunately for him, Gaia's reveals that she did have a word with the god of his world when he had passed, but he refused her request to reincarnate Kanan back into his own world. Basically, this was why she decided to have him reincarnated into her world instead. She then asks Kanan if he has any other questions for her. So he asks her about his golden law X. This helps him have unlimited money, no matter how much he spends from his wallet, so he wonders if this is a permanent skill with no limits. Gaia's explains that ever since Kanan reincarnated here, the data from Valkyrie Chronicles was immediately transferred along with his soul. This means that the unlimited money hack is a permanent skill, and our hero will never need to worry about running out of cash. However, this only applies as long as he doesn't lose his money powers. Canon is confused for a bit, so the goddess states that there are skills which can be used to deprive other skills even if they happen to be inherent. Such skills are banned in this world, so our hero shouldn't worry about it much. But now that it has been mentioned, it's safe to assume that we'll see these skills later in the story. Canon is told that even he can't possess the stealing skills, and then he is asked if he has any other questions. He wants to know if this world is indeed based off the dungeon seed game he used to play back in Japan. This will help understand if he can create his own historical developments. Gaia states that this world is both similar and different from the dungeon seed game, and Canon should understand this because of his dark elf slave. This means that characters who appeared when Canon completed an ending in Dungeon Seed will exist independently in this world. The goddess pulls out a gaming console and shows off her curvy derriere, as she mentions our hero must be heading towards a future that is different from the Dungeon Seed ending. She then hands him the console and states that she herself is unsatisfied with the game. She is actually excited to see the future Canon creates in this new world, and then asks him if he has anything else he would like to know. Our hero is still confused about why this world is so similar to the dungeon seed he had plowed and combined with the battle system of Valkyrie Chronicle. He also realizes that there is saved data in the gaming device he has been handed over. Gaia states that the men who created these two games had subconsciously referenced this world, which intrigued the gods. They wanted to recreate elements from the two games, so they modified this world to suit that. Of course, there are still lots of things in this world that are not in the games, so it's still an original concept. Our hero has finally understood everything, but he also wants to know what Gaia's wants from him. After all, a goddess should not have so much free time that she casually chills with a human like this. Gaia's is impressed that Canon has such a strong understanding of the situation. She reveals that she has come to give him another active skill, which is birth magic. Canon has no idea what the goddess means by this, so she asks him if he intends to have a child with Shera. Our hero is a bit cautious because he feels that Gaia's has abruptly switched to a very sensitive topic all of a sudden. The goddess states that birth magic simply increases desires and intrusive thoughts so as to execute shady activities. In order to acquire this skill, a man needs to achieve the highest level of dark magic. Canon has already done that, as he does not even need to use charms to get Shera to do unspeakable things with him. Essentially, our hero will be using magic to penetrate the mind and slightly manipulate it. Technically speaking, it's highly sus to be using such magic, as it is mostly popular with succubus girls who want to further their generations through mating. The main problem for succubus girls is that they are not fertile, which is why this magic comes in very handy for them. Even so, this world has a very serious problem when it comes to birth rate, so the species over here are all heading towards extinction. Since mating between different species has a very low rate of fertilization, it does not look likely that Canon and Shera will have a child. But if he uses this birth magic skill, then his chances can go as high as 100%. So, Gaia's wants Canon to take this birth magic so that he can repopulate this world and save its people's races from extinction. Our hero wonders why this world had to be built in such a way, but he will need to ask the manga artist that question. As he sits there unimpressed, Gaia says that they should practice right now to try it out. She proceeds to prepare for the session, but Canon asks her why she is doing this. The goddess makes fun of him for making such a scene overseeing some delicate female garments, so he tries to reawaken his inner Giga Chad. However, Gaius says that this is the only way for her to be able to transfer the skill to him. Canon can't believe that he will actually be able to act on his intrusive thoughts with a goddess, but this is technically some kind of soul transfer dream, so it can definitely come true. The goddess reiterates that she has to impart the skill by any means, so it does not matter what Canon may think of the situation. After all, if the birth magic skill is to be gained, it only makes sense to transmit it via the act of mating. As Canon still tries to digest what is being told to him, the goddess adds that apart from the senses of touch, she will also need to absorb his elephant water for this process to work. She goes on to keep Canon's eyes wide open because she wants him to enjoy this sight thoroughly. Gaius tells our hero that if there is anything he still does not understand, then he will need to figure it out himself. As expected, he is very nervous and does not know how to go about this, so the goddess tells him to be confident. With that, Canon awakens the power of Riz and unleashes his best skills on the goddess. He emerges victorious after an intense session, and he has left her unable to move. This is quite the achievement for our hero, but he tells Gaius that he needs to go back to his slave girls now. Suddenly, his stat bar opens up and asks him if he would like to take the god core from Gaius. He does not know what this means, but he figures it must be a trap set by the goddess, so he chooses the option of no. As he does this, our hero suddenly wakes up in his bed and wonders if everything he just saw was actually a dream or real life. At first, he really believes that he has experienced a rather spicy dream, but then he realizes that it was all true as his stat bar opens in front of him. He has indeed gained the birth magic skill, which includes life absorb and eye charming as sub-skills. Now we move to Anna, who is screaming the word no cutely while punching a target figure. Canon guesses that his slave girl must be imagining the doll as a very bad person, which is why she is screaming at it while she hits it. That's when we learn that Canon is now personally training Anna. We are then taken to a flashback to a few hours ago where Shara happily greets her master with a smile. They wish each other good morning, and then Shara gets to preparing breakfast. Our hero notices Anna also sitting at the table and realizes that his slave girl has decided to stay with him after the choice he gave her earlier. Now that his harem has officially grown, Canon tries to figure what to do today. He asks Anna if she can help Shara prepare breakfast, but the elf girl says that she will be the one to cook the food. Canon wants to know what's wrong, so Shara reveals she had spoken to Anna earlier and learned that she has never been in the kitchen before. Our hero can't believe it, but Anna admits that she was only used by her previous masters for the purpose of cleaning the house or delivering goods. She apologizes, but Canon says it's all right and she has nothing to feel guilty about. Shara also says that Anna can learn how to cook from now on, so she agrees to it. Is our hero going to use his slave girls for more than cooking on a regular basis? And what's going on with Gaius? Has she managed to recover from her shady session with Canon?
Now that our hero Canon has conquered a literal goddess in unspeakable fashion, he can freely tell his slave girls what to do. Even then, he asks Anna not to be so disheartened by her inability to cook for her master. As long as she has the heart to do it, she can serve our hero to her fullest ability. Now, Canon tells Anna to go wash her face, after which she should also change her clothes and makeup. After all, it doesn't make sense for the main character to have a slave girl who isn't a 10. Canon tells his girls that after breakfast, they are going to step out, so Anna asks him where they will be off to. That's when Shara reveals to her that Canon is going to be training her today. We then shift to Anna in the middle of her training session where she is mercilessly attacking the target dummy. Canon watches on as his slave girl punches the dummy with a hilarious ferocity, and he is not at all impressed by what he is seeing. However, he decides to let it be for now, and asks Anna to come towards him. He asks his slave girl if she has any experience in martial arts at all, and she reveals that she does know the basics. Kanon is pleased to hear this, so he tells Anna that before she hits her opponent, she needs to keep one very important thing in mind. She must not let her body float at all, and this takes her aback. Kanon explains that every time Anna goes to punch the dummy, her center of gravity moves a bit too much, and it could be a problem for her when she's in a real fight. This is a key point when it comes to physical combat, especially when there are people like Drake and the Diddler out there. Anna argues that she won't have much arm strength if she tries to use such a method, so in that case, she won't be able to land much damage. Kanon is surprised to hear that his slave girl wishes to use more power and inflict more harm upon her opponent. This leads him to comment that Anna still does not know the basics of martial arts, which is probably why she should be left to the kitchen. Anyway, our hero is a generous man, so he explains to Anna why it is dangerous to let her body float like that apart from in the bedroom. He thinks of a way to explain it best to her, so he comes up with a reference example. He invites Shara to come over and give him a hand, to which she immediately agrees. Now, Kanon tells Anna that in an actual battle she will be dealt with as follows. He mimics Anna's style of attack, but Shara is able to displace his move with ease. On top of that, she is also able to launch a counter-attack which she stops right before hitting her master. Kanon thanks Shara for the support, and then he tells Anna that if she goes in blindly without a strong center of gravity, then her opponents will be able to easily dodge her attacks while also launching effective counters. He adds that Shara only used her bare hands over here, but if she had a knife, then that would have been the end of his head. Our hero says this to convey how easy it is to lose one's life in the blink of an eye during battle. Anna panics rather cutely and asks her master how she can overcome this challenge. He says that it's a rather simple process of imagining a single spot in her body where her center of gravity lies. He continues to guide his slave girl on how to identify and control this center of gravity by asking her to imagine a shaft coming from the ground. Anna must use this shaft as her central point of rotation, and she should only move around that axis. The hit points are above and below for her, and she must focus on transferring the force of her center of gravity to her fist. She must also take care not to let her arms stretch too much because she needs to be ready for the next attack. The only thing that should be stretched is her kitty when she gets hit with those intrusive thoughts. Nobody would have believed that maths would come in handy during combat, but our hero is indeed an omnipotent being. What Kanon basically wants to tell Anna is that she should not release her fists from her hands, but rather from her hips. She must also hold her hips firmly, which is something Kanon would like to do to her anyway. This becomes a bit too much for the bunny girl to take in, so our hero figures he's been talking for too long. It's time for the next example, so Anna will need to pay close attention to him now. Kanon prepares his fist as he faces the target dummy and instantly launches a punch that is probably only a few inches away from it. He is able to completely destroy the dummy with that one punch, and it would even make Saitama proud. Kanon strikes a heroic pose after launching his attack, and then he turns back to Anna to let her know how easy this is. However, she is shocked to see how powerful her master is, and complains that she did not get a single thing he just said. Kanon does not have time to mollycoddle her again and again, so he tells his slave girl to practice exactly like how he has just shown her. He reminds Anna that she should not think of this as something that's complicated, but instead, she should just focus on improving her body movements. What he has taught her is just a basic technique, but in order for this attack to be effective, Anna will need to release the power from her beast muscles. If she wants to become stronger, then there is no better way to practice than this one. Kanon then tells Anna that this is just the beginning of attacks that are launched with bare hands. After this, the bunny girl will also need to learn how to defend. There is a long way to go, and Kanon smiles, probably because he is going to have a lot of fun teasing the cute and curvy Anna. The bunny girl can't believe that this is only the beginning of her training and she still has a long way to go. Kanon activates demon mode and asks Anna why she is being so scared. She needs to calm down, but when her master is looking like Voldemort's successor, it is hard for anyone to remain cool. At this moment, Shera shows up and tells her master that it is not a good thing to scare a beginner like that. After all, he would not have scared Anna so much if they were doing shady things to each other. With that, Shera tells Anna that they have had enough for today's lesson, and they should go home to get some rest. Kanan lets this slide because he too realizes that he had turned over to the dark side for a bit. Later in the night, we see Anna in bed with her hand reaching out and she feels a bit sad. She says that she did not do anything productive today, and it is making her feel useless. Shera is also in the same room, and she wakes up when Anna says this out loud. The bunny girl states that she is being treated very well by Kanan, so the least she can do is fight for him. She says once again that she must get better as soon as she can, so that she can be of use to both Kanan and Shera. This makes Shera smile as she goes back to sleep. Now, we move to the next day, where Anna is set to continue her training with our hero. He tells the bunny girl that since she learned how to punch yesterday, today he will be helping her with footwork and coordination. He asks her to use her feet the same way he did yesterday while punching the dummy. Once again, Anna will need to pay attention to her hips for kicking, just like she did with punching. However, if she focuses so much on her hips, there's no telling what might happen to her after 9 months. Kanan continues with his lesson by telling Anna that she needs to be rhythmic with her side movements. If the bunny girl is not too used to such movements, then she can pay attention to her heels as well. Anna is determined to become a better fighter, so she obeys her master with intent. Now that he is done with his theory lesson, Kanan tells Shera to take care of Anna and her practice because he has somewhere to go right now. Shera agrees readily, but she wants to know where her master is going. Our hero does not give his slave girls a direct answer, and only says that he has some shopping to do. After that, he moves out of his home and towards the city's market area. He approaches a place which is the French word for afternoon, and is greeted by a cute and curvy cat girl. She asks him if he is coming alone, but he says that a friend of his is waiting for him. That's when he notices his buddy waving at him, so he heads towards the table while the cat girl goes to get the menu for him. The friend tells Kanan that he is on time, which is a good thing. The men then talk about how this city is running out of places to date, but even so, this store is great, just judging from the cute and curvy cat girl. The friend then comments on how the sweets over here are very nice, but we don't know if he's talking about actual food or kitties. The friend says that people normally do not come here to exchange information, but that would only make this a better undercover spot. The friend continues to say that he loves sweets, and this prompts Kanan to comment that he feels as if he is at a ladies' tea party. Now, a cute waitress arrives and the friend orders for shortcake and milk. Kanan is shocked to see how delicious the food looks, and then he is asked if he would like to order something. Our hero asks for the cafe's most popular red tea, but the friend is surprised that he is not ordering for cake. He insists that the fruit cake over here is #1 in the whole kingdom, so Kanan should definitely try one. Our hero does not know how to say no, and he tells us that he feels scared to eat cakes with this uncle. That's when we learn that this is Dine, who is a smuggler, and not at all like the player uncle from Instagram. Dine happens to be a member of the Valkyrie Chronicles and was also the man who showed Kanan the slave market from where Shera was being auctioned. From his appearance, it's quite obvious that Dine is a calm and likable young man, but the truth is that he is actually a grumpy old uncle who uses rejuvenation magic to look young. Kanan tells us that Dine has a lot of information that is secret to others, which makes him a very reliable informant in this world. Since Kanan has his own agendas in mind, it would definitely benefit him to have such people on his side. Our hero tells Dine that he has not brought anything with him today, but he does have some information that he would like to exchange. Dine gets interested, so he wants to know what kind of intel Kanan has gotten his hands on. Our hero reveals it is to do with the noble man Mist Snef Fonbon Reba, who seems to like going to some kind of underground market. This information must have been leaked to the Capitol Guard and the Night Order, and Cannon has personally verified it to be true. He then tells Dine that he should make use of this intel as the cute cafe girls continue to serve them. The uncle thanks our hero for this information and asks if there is anything else to talk about. Cannon says that he is aware of the situation regarding Marquee Goriacera and his demise, which surprises Dine because this was supposed to be top secret information. The uncle asks Cannon if he knows how the Marquee met his end, but our hero simply gives him a smile, which is more than enough to let Dine know he was the one who did it. Anyway, Dine wants to get to the main point, which is that he has 3 suggestions for Cannon. First up, he wants to offer intel on the Lady of Lord Altair of West Chubane. Then, he offers something on the Marquis Bonriba, especially regarding the people who had dealt with him so far. Cannon is impressed by what the uncle has to offer, so he gives him a couple of coins as an incidental fee. He takes a look at the cake again and comments that it is not supposed to be the ideal dish for a Giga Chad like himself. However, he can see the cute cat girl enjoying the cake, which makes him wonder if his slave girls will also like it. This makes him realize that he does not know what Anna and Shara like as women, but there is no time to focus on that right now. Cannon tells Dine that he will be leaving the capital soon, and he does not know when he will be back. If anything happens to him, then he will send a familiar to Dine to let him know the updates. Our hero is counting on the uncle to help him when the time comes, and he agrees to it. Of course, Dine wishes to know where Cannon is going, so he reveals that his destination is West Chubane. Dine realizes that the slave girls must also be going along with their master, but Cannon says that Shara and Anna are just practicing and looking after the house, which is what women should be doing in the first place. On that note, our hero turns to the cute waitress and asks her for 3 pieces of fruit cake that he can take away with him. As he heads back home, Cannon tells us that he has already gathered enough information for his next job. However, he is yet to see how far Anna can go as a fighter, so he is a bit concerned. It will be based on this that Cannon will decide if he and Shara will do all the fighting. The moment this thought pops into his head, our hero notices Anna completely demolishing the target dummy in front of her. The bunny girl is extremely proud of herself and celebrates in front of Shara while her master watches from the background. He is happy to see that Anna can indeed fight, and then he approaches his slave girls. He tells them they've done enough and it's time to go, but the girls don't understand what he means by this. Cannon tells Anna that she has tried hard and succeeded, which makes her realize her hard work till now. She almost forgets that the others are leaving, so she catches up with them. The girls then see that their master has bought them cake, which makes them very happy. Later, we see Shara making Anna try on an outfit, and she asks the bunny girl if she likes it. Anna is indeed pleased by what she has gotten, and even Shara looks extra cute and curvy in this attire. Now, Anna goes to meet Cannon, who asks if she is done trying on her new maid costume. Looking at her pillows, our hero asks if the dress is too tight, but she says that it fits perfectly. She almost has tears in her eyes because she is grateful to Cannon for everything he has done for her, even though his mind is filled with intrusive thoughts. Cannon is surprised that Anna is not sitting down to have the cake with him and Shara, so he asks her if something is wrong. Our hero asks the bunny girl if she got hurt somewhere during practice, but then she bows down to Cannon and asks him to advise her from now on. She wants her master to tell her how to wear her clothes and also how to defend herself, but he may also want to tell her how to do other things as well. Anyway, Cannon tells Anna to raise her head, and then she says that she hopes he will continue to teach her the ways of a slave girl. Cannon simply tells her that she will have to work hard from now on, and she does not seem to have any problems with that at all. Now, we move forward to 3 days since our hero left the capital, and we see both Anna and Shara battling it out with each other as practice. Cannon is busy in the background doing something else, but the girls are giving it their all to make sure they live up to their master's expectations. It turns out that our hero is preparing the meal, but he will have to wait a bit longer to dig in because his girls are taking too much time with their fighting. However, he does admit that Anna's movements have become a whole lot smoother now, thanks to all the training she has been subjected to. After all, the bunny girl has not taken a single day off ever since she started with her training. Canon comments that once Anna masters the basics, then she will be able to handle herself without any support from him or Shara. It's time to take a look at the intel he got from Dine, and then we are given a crash course on the geography of this world. Apparently, there are two great countries and America isn't one of them. The first great country is the one our hero is in right now, which is Elsalis, and the other one is the Asteria Kingdom Alliance. It turns out that the relationship between these two kingdoms is pretty bad, which should not come as a surprise, considering how two superpowers are never happy to share their positions. Canon realizes that Elsalis is built just like the world in the Dungeon Seed game. In this game, the king is the final boss who always sends his troops to the dungeon. Canon wonders if it's the same thing over here, because this kingdom is populated and rich, yet somehow slower than the other alliance. The main reason behind this is believed to be profound class and religious distinctions. However, this is the same trope that is usually found in most stories nowadays, so it's not something unique. Canon also tells us that the Valkyrie Chronicles are set hundreds of years into the future in Dungeon Seed. In that world, the Elsalis kingdom should become an alliance of the Asterian kingdoms. There is still one more country apart from the kingdoms just mentioned, and it is the home to elves and beast men who have escaped Elsalis. Since this country is still taking in refugees, the population is increasing at an alarming rate, which means that there are enough people to start an army over here too. Magic techniques are highly developed in this country, so it makes Canon wonder if it has imposed any military duties on the refugees. He has also learned that the forest where Shara used to live is located on the border of the two countries, but it is under the rule of the kingdom now. Now, Canon explains that the biggest cause for friction between the two superpowers is religion, most notably the worship of gods. The Asterian Alliance worships a curvy goddess named Gaius, who has already done unspeakable things with our hero. On the other hand, Elsalis worships the male version of Gaius, which could very possibly make them like Mr. Pepe Julian Onzima. There is a church that controls the state religion, and it is called the Upitaris Church. After everything that Canon had done to Gaius, he knows that he should not be fighting a goddess, but he still does not like the way she looks down on him as if he is a bottom guy, even though he's very clearly a top. Now, we learn that Canon's target destination is the center of the border territory of Alter, West Jubane. The goal of our hero is to rescue the Lord's daughter, who might very well join his harem if we are to consider how the plot is progressing. The name of this daughter is Rico van Alter, and she is set to be married off to a hero one day. Now that he thinks about it, Canon realizes that this quest will be just like the one he had in Dungeon Seed. Alicia and Reno will play two important opponents, even though he had saved them when they last met. Either way, our hero needs to hurry to West Jubane, which is located on the border between He Kingdom and the Alliance. Apparently, this place was once a part of Dolcia, which was a country that perished at the start of Dungeon Seed. The reason was said to be a sudden invasion from Lord Alter, which explains why he's the villain over here. One thing that Canon does not understand though, is the country does not exist in Valkyrie's Chronicles. However, if your body count includes a literal goddess, then nothing is impossible for you. Canon is highly optimistic about his future in this world, and then he speaks about Rico van Alter. As far as the game is concerned, there is no information about her at all, which makes Canon wonder if she was ever a part of the story. Then again, maybe he did not clear all the hidden quests, which was why the character never appeared. This leads him to his most crucial disadvantage, which is that he does not know what his target looks like. Dine had said that Rico has cherry pink hair and purple eyes, which effectively makes her a typical cosplay girl. Canon believes she could just be a teenager like him, but he has to draw her face to get a better idea. It's a tough ask for him, and the drawing clearly proves that art is not his forte. However, Kanan does remember that Riko was said to have perished during the attack on Dulcia, which could explain why he does not know much about her. Since our hero does not know anything about the girl he has to protect, he has found himself in a rather tricky situation. Dine did confirm that Riko does exist, but the information is too fuzzy for Kanan to devise a suitable plan. Plus, he does not even know how powerful his enemy is, or even the specifics of the battle zone. This is going to make his strategy even harder to devise, and Kanan wonders whether this is some kind of game or riddle for him to figure out by himself. Basically, Gaius is mocking our hero yet again, because she told him to live freely, and yet she is making him play these games with her. Kanan realizes that he will need to set up his goals soon, otherwise he will get into trouble for only going after cute and curvy babes. It should not be much of a worry for him because he has the power to eliminate danger, as well as financial problems. As of now, he should just focus on the task at hand, so Riko will need to wait for a bit. On that note, our hero tells his slave girls it's time for dinner. Now, we move to the Lord's daughter Riko von Alter, who decides to give us a bit of an introduction about herself. She states that she is the daughter of the Earl of Borderland, and her betrothed finance is Albert von Deadvo. That's definitely an odd name for any human being in general, and then Riko states that her parents have been close to Albert's parents for a very long time. This was what led to their marriage being arranged, which is not a good thing for this cute girl. Suddenly, the damsel in distress is interrupted when her butler shows up to see her. He can notice that she is being the same as usual, and then Riko asks him what's up. The butler's name is revealed to be Sebastian, and says it's nothing of much importance. Riko then tells Sebastian if he feels she has always been lonely due to being the Earl's daughter. Of course, a butler will not want to anger his mistress, so he simply agrees to what Riko says. The damsel girl seems to be in some kind of delusion wherein she feels that Albert will rescue her from this boring life, similar to a hero saving a princess from goblins in the forest. It looks like Riko is a clear case of Delulu is the Solulu, as she says that the son who lost his parents at an early age will fall in love with her. Together with Albert, Riko wishes to pledge the future and is eagerly waiting for him to come and take her away from this boring life. Sebastian once again has no other choice but to agree with Riko because he has a family to support. Riko once again says that she is an imprisoned girl in the countryside and she is hopelessly waiting for a hero to come and save her, just like she has read in the stories she had heard as a child. Sebastian is lost for words as he awkwardly stands there while Riko seems to console herself for being a pitiful girl. She once again looks at Sebastian for validation, which he does provide to her, but also begs her not to let such words out of the space. Riko promises not to do such a thing and reassures her butler that she would never want to spread rumors that could put her father's reputation in danger. At this very moment, another servant shows up and tells the princess that something big has happened, which is why he has to interrupt her chat with Sebastian. It turns out that there are robbers who have entered the castle, so Riko asks about her father. The servant is not so sure about the Earl, but he wants Riko to run away with Sebastian, who is to take her to Albert right now. Riko is shocked to hear that her opportunity to go to the royal capital has come at such an inopportune time, but then she feels a bit suspicious about the man who has just come in here. She does not recognize him one bit and wonders when he got admitted into the castle. It's at this very moment when Sebastian reveals that he has been an imposter among us all along. The butler knocks out Riko while apologizing to her, just like your typical traitor. Later, Riko seems to regain her consciousness, and then she sees Sebastian in front of her, along with all the robbers. She can also hear another voice which is very familiar, and that's when we see Riko tied up as a hostage. She follows the sounds and notices that her own father has been beaten up and is kept as a hostage in front of her. Sebastian then turns to the Earl and tells him that they have been friends for a very long time, but he also draws a sword, which is not a good indicator. And just like that, Sebastian stabs his lord with the sword, seemingly ending his life in front of his daughter's own eyes. The butler states that his family has been serving the Alter family for a very long time, so it must be hard to digest why he is committing such a horrific act. The Earl is shown to still be alive and breathing, so Sebastian decides to at least explain his motivations. Basically, from the time of his father, Sebastian was told by the king to take back all the lands with dragon veins from people like the Earl, who are of foreign blood. More than anything else, his patience has reached its limit, which is probably why he has finally given in to the dark side. Sebastian then lets out a little rant talking about how royal blood people such as him should not be bowing down or serving foreigners like the Earl and Rico. All of this is a bit too much for the damsel in distress to hear, because she has no idea about being an outsider or even about the dragon veins Sebastian has mentioned. The butler is surprised that the Earl did not tell his daughter anything about the dragon veins, but the father says that it would not matter to Rico what facts or fiction may be. Now, Sebastian awakens the dark side and tells the Earl that Rico's curvy will be used to entertain the thieves that have broken into the castle. What's worse is that the father will have to watch this while he slowly bleeds out. The servant imposter who broke in earlier licks his lips like Diddy and says that it's time to awaken the diddler within. What follows is a series of shady acts, but Rico's purity is still intact for now. The princess cries about why this is happening to her, and she calls out to her imaginary Alba to come and save her from this mess. Luckily for her, Sebastian notices someone moving around the area, and he wants to know who this is. The butler calls out to this mysterious person and dares them to show themselves, but this was just asking for punishment. It's none other than Anna, who seems to have some weird kind of superhero costume on, but that doesn't matter because she is here to rescue Rico. Sebastian does not like the fact that a beast girl has come to the scene, so he orders his men to take care of her. Of course, they have no idea about the kind of training Anna has gone through, and she teaches all of them a lesson they will never forget. The main fighter manages to take her first blow, but he can't believe that someone would dare to challenge him this way. He tries to launch his own attack on the bunny girl, but it is of no use as she unleashes an attack so powerful that it manages to rip her opponent in half. It looks like Anna has also picked up the 1-inch punch from her master, and it serves as the perfect cue for him to make his own appearance. Cannon enters with his slave girls standing in front of him, and he likens the enemy to nothing more than a bunch of ants who have come to taste a sugar cube, meaning Rico. Our hero then tells his opponents that they better run fast, otherwise he is going to end them all. Of course, we will need some kind of backstory on how this came to be, so we are taken to a flashback right before the thieves entered the castle. Shera shows up in her armor and asks Cannon if they are going to just attack the enemy directly. He is a bit taken aback by her choice of attire, but maintains that stupid enemies should not intimidate them in any way. Our hero takes a good look at the situation, and he admits that things are a bit serious because he has a princess to save. Now, we move back to the present where Cannon tries to make an assessment of his opponents. At first, he had thought they were 6 people, and if all of them weren't that strong, then it would have been easy to defeat them. However, by his count, there could be more than 7 enemies, as some of the others may be masquerading somewhere else. Now, Cannon sets his eyes on Rico, and he knows that she is the current target. From her current state, our hero realizes that what he had predicted was correct, but it has moved at a much faster pace than he had expected. What's more is that the man lying on the floor is none other than Lord Alter, which means that Cannon has arrived a bit later than he would have wanted to. Luckily for him, Lord Alter raises his head to reveal he is still alive, so all hope is not yet lost. It's time to get serious, so our hero pulls out his stat bar to make sure everything is in place. He activates his skill field, which will take around 3 minutes, and he must not step out of the skill zone, otherwise his move will become neutralized. Not that Cannon needs to worry about such things, and he shows off his powers by covering the entire area within his skill zone. Shera is surprised to see how strong her master really is, but Kanon tells her and Anna not to worry anymore because he has full control of the castle. Of course, he speaks to his slave girls via telepathy because he does not want the enemy to know his next move. Our hero explains to Anna and Shera that there is no one else hiding for an ambush, and the men they see in front of them is all the enemy has left. Anna is ordered to separate Sebastian from the Earl, so this is the perfect time for the bunny girl to show how far along she has come. Anna gets into position and obeys her master like a good girl while also controlling her equipment. Kanon is pleased to see this, especially the fact that Anna is so comfortable with her weapons now. We are given a rundown of all her items, starting with the Heart of Eyeglasses, which gives the bunny girl a mini display of her enemy status. On top of that, these glasses help their subject remain calm during battle while also doubling their experience points. The main item though, is the Kaiser glove, which has a short sword attached to it for punching support. He then looks at Shera and asks her if she has mastered her own equipment yet. The slave girl blushes at first, but then she says that she has no problem in controlling it at all. Kanon tells Shera to support Anna carefully because this will be her first proper match, and she already has quite a few opponents to take down. The bunny girl may not have enough experience, but she tells her master that she will definitely do him proud over here. With that, Anna charges at her opponents with Kanon and the others watching on in anticipation. The dashing power is on point, and then Anna uses her glasses to help her identify her targets with ease. She prepares the first strike for an unsuspecting thief, and she proceeds to give him an ultimate finisher move that cracks open the floor and also the man's bones. This is impressive enough for Anna, and Sebastian does not know what to do over here. To make matters worse for the imposter butler, Kanon manages to use his speed and stealth to rescue Rico from his trap as well. While the others remain confused as to what has just happened, the princess looks at Kanon as if he is indeed the hero she has been dreaming about this whole time. She looks at him with dreamy eyes, and then he offers her a potion to drink. Rico makes a very cute face and keeps thanking Kanon, after which she asks for his name. However, now is not the time to be exchanging pleasantries because there is a proper fight going on. The potion that Kanon gave to her was to put her to sleep, and then he places the princess on the floor so that he can focus on the enemy. Before that, he needs to get to the Earl as soon as possible, because it does not look like he is going to make it out of here alive. Now, he rushes to Lord Altair and keeps calling him Rick as if it is his nickname or something. After a few efforts, the Earl finally responds to our hero, and he tries to recognize him. Once again, there is no time to waste, so Kanon asks Rick to make a choice as fast as he can. In the middle of this chat, we move back to Anna, who is trying her best to take on Sebastian. The imposter butler is actually a lot more skilled than he looks, as he is able to take on the bunny girl while also dominating the fight. Of course, Anna is no muck with fighting either, so she counters and dodges his moves while also having her massive pillows stay intact. Things look a bit scary for her as a thief tries to attack her from behind while she's not looking. Luckily for her, Shera is there to block the thief with her armor, and she tells the bunny girl not to lose sight of what's happening in front of her. The focus should remain on her enemy and Shera will take care of the rest. As Shera shows off her skills, Kanon notices that her equipment is also top-class stuff. Her armor is made of a special material, and even her undershirt armor is made from the moon goddess. The sneak-attacking thief mocks the slave girl for trying to fight him with a stick, but he does not realize how much power she is currently wielding in her hands. Shera goes on to launch an instant strike on the man's head, and she manages to split it open with minimum effort. With one target down, the slave girl moves on to the next and is able to finish him off with ease as well. Things are only beginning to get more interesting now, as the armored girl brings out her stick and reveals it is actually a spear. Shera chants out ice magic on her spear, and it turns out to be some kind of spell named Nilheim. She looks rather dangerous right now, and the other men watch on in shock and terror as they meet their refreshed opponent. They think that Shera's main trick is using spears, so if they surround her, they may gain the upper hand. Of course, this kind of strategy was doomed from the very beginning, because Shera has a lot more to offer than spears and a curvy body. The men launch an attack on her at once, but she is able to counter them all with ease and emerge as the dominant force. She does commend her opponents for being able to adjust their moves based on what they are observing, but they have not been able to understand her spear's true power. As a matter of fact, it changes form and becomes a scythe now, and Shera says it's possible because of it being made from ice. Sebastian can't believe what he is seeing because a slave girl was able to take down multiple men with just a single blow. The imposter butler laments that his entire plan has gone to waste because of these two girls, but he can't even finish his sentence before someone stabs him in the chest. Sebastian is shocked to see the person stabbing him, as it is none other than Lord Rick himself, who has awakened thanks to Cannon. The butler watches on in horror as Rick thanks him for serving his family for so long. Sebastian can't believe that Rick was able to recover from such a deadly slash, because there is no amount of healing magic that can take care of such a wound. That's when Rick reveals that his master saved him when all his healing magic was rendered useless. Sebastian can't understand why a lord is calling someone else his master, but it should not come as a surprise when the master is our hero. Now, the imposter butler looks up to both Shera and Anna, who are posing victoriously in front of him. He wants to know who these people are, but it only causes Cannon to laugh on his face. He tells the butler that it's time to talk business while also telling his slave girls they have done a great job despite being so late to the party. The whole mission went a lot smoother than he had anticipated, so he can really trust his babes now. Now, it's time to land the checkmate move, which Cannon calls his main dish. Sebastian watches with fear, but our hero tells him not to be scared of his slave girls, as they won't bite him. Instead, Cannon is going to be the one who will offer a service to the imposter butler. Our hero laughs while saying Sebastian can use all his strength to escape, but it still won't do him any good as he will not be allowed to leave. This kind of violation is worse than the public humiliation Drake received from Kendrick, so Sebastian tells Cannon not to underestimate him at all. With that, the imposter butler charges at Cannon with all his might and tries to attack him with his sword. However, it is here where he realizes something else about our hero. Cannon laughs at Sebastian once again, because he can't believe the butler has been so ignorant till now. Sebastian is super confused, so Cannon reminds him that he has been dealt the ultimate move in chess. With that, demonic spirits come out of Cannon and present themselves to the butler. Our hero says that all the darkness within this place only exists to serve him, so the only way for Sebastian to live is to escape from his hands. Sebastian is still trying to understand what this darkness has to do with Cannon, and then our hero reveals that his only true weakness is his real body. Cannon can't move while he is using his skill, but that does not matter because he is basically untouchable with all the demons roaming around him. Sebastian curses Cannon for being such a menace, but this only causes him to laugh some more and say that the rising beast he summoned is only teasing the butler. Cannon has asked the beast not to lock one of Sebastian's hands because he wanted to test if he was skilled enough to move efficiently. However, things have become boring for him now, so he decides he does not want to play with the imposter butler anymore. Cannon asks his demons if they should take something more from Sebastian, which confuses him at first, but then he is made to realize his situation instantly. The demons rip his arm off his body, which is a rather unpleasant sight, and it makes Sebastian writhe in pain. All of this is entertaining to Cannon, thus proving him to be a sadist in the making. Our hero is not too impressed by his victim's struggle, so he snaps his fingers like Thanos. Sebastian watches on as his arm continues to bleed out, and then he begins to cough aggressively. The imposter butler begs for mercy and he tells Cannon that he will never do such a thing ever again in his life. After all, he was only carrying out the duties that were given to him by the king, so he was technically just being a good employee. However, our hero believes in the startup ideology and tells Sebastian he does not care. Of course, there's also the matter of the imposter butler trying to do unspeakable things to Rico in front of her bleeding father, which is almost as disgusting than Hollywood's secrets. Sebastian once again begs Canon to be a bit generous, but he tells the imposter butler that he is not a god, he simply likes to do shady things with goddesses. Sebastian knows it's game over for him, especially when Canon declares that those who do not understand the pain of others are not qualified to ask for forgiveness. Now, he puts his hand on Rick's shoulder and tells him that they should enjoy the slow pain that Sebastian was trying to inflict on him and his daughter. Rick is grateful to his master for allowing him to punish his traitor butler as he pleases, and then we shift to Rico, who is still asleep and having some intrusive thoughts. This is because she talks in her sleep and says that she might get if she continues whatever she is doing in her shady dream. As Canon leaves, Shara goes up to him, but he says that he has seen enough to realize just how flawed the world is. The slave girl is told by her master that he has finally decided what his goal in life is going to be. Hearing this, so Shara gets interested and asks for the details, to which Canon says that he will control the dark side of this world as its demon master. He wants to get rid of all the annoying things that currently exist over here and change them to suit his own ideals. In order for him to achieve this goal though, our hero will need to quickly destroy the current world, which puts him on track to become Eren Yeager Part 2. Now, we move to the more luxurious section of the palace where Rico seems to have evidently joined Canon's harem. She asks the other girls if they can take a bath together, but they are a bit shy. Rico simply tells them to think that they are her maid girls for now, but this could actually lead to all kinds of intrusive thoughts if you are a man of culture. Meanwhile, Canon is deep in thought when he is greeted by Rick, who refers to him as master again. Rick asks our hero if he slept well in the night, to which he says he managed to get by. Now, Rick tells Canon that he has made all the preparations he was asked to do by his master. He is greeted by his slave girls as well, who are looking extra happy and curvy, probably because of whatever they must have done in the bath. Canon says that he has some urgent business to attend to, so the girls offer to escort him. However, he says that he will be going alone this time because he has some things he needs to finish up on after last night. More importantly, he does not want his slave girls to see what he is about to do, otherwise they may think of him differently. Our hero maintains that he does not wish to do what he is setting out to do, but the situation demands it, so he will try to get done with it quickly and come back. Before leaving, Canon tells Anna that she should look after Rico while he is gone, and she should also learn a thing or two about daily activities and routines. He also tells Shara to take care of Anna, and then he asks his girls if they would like any presents. This is obviously because of all the hard work they had put in earlier, so he wishes to reward them, even if it may not be a massive prize. Canon asks the slave girls once again if there is anything specific they would like, so Anna declares that she wants some clothes. Of course, she likes her work clothes as well, but she would also prefer to try on other types of outfits. Canon then turns to Shara to ask what she wants, but the elf girl acts shy because she does not seem to have anything particular on her mind. As expected, she is too nervous to speak her mind, so Canon does not bother prodding her any further. Suddenly, Rick goes up to his master and suggests something by whispering it into his ear. This is a massive shocker for our hero, because what Rick has asked is for him to take his daughter as his own babe. Rick seems to be quite keen on it, but our hero is not too sure if he wants to use his elephant so frequently. He tells the Earl that he will take some time to think about this, but Rick thanks him for everything he has done anyway. Of course, Rico is a sight for sore eyes, so our hero is hoping for her to be above the Drake age bracket, but for now, he decides to hold things off before the bogeyman comes for him too. With that, Canon sets out on his journey, and his three girls wish him all the best. Later, we see him at another location where he seems to be confronting someone. As expected, the person in question is none other than Sebastian, who for some reason has been kept alive. The traitor butler wants to know exactly what our hero wants to do with him, because even he knows that he is not being kept alive out of the goodness of Cannon's heart. However, Sebastian is in for a hard truth when our hero reveals that he has already been ended. The butler is only alive right now as a zombie thanks to Cannon's magic. Since he has a lot to do for his subordinates, our hero wishes to know each and everything that Sebastian is aware of, because there clearly seem to be other villains in hiding. The butler takes a while to answer, so Cannon reminds him that he might be a zombie, but he still fears pain. He wants his answer quickly, but instead, we get to see Anna admitting to the fact that she loves sweets. We have been shifted back to the slave girls, who are being made to enjoy a sweet meal by Rico. Shara is not sure if slave girls like themselves should be eating something so fancy, and then she also mentions the shared bath they had. Rico has no problem with either of them because it's been a while since she's been able to talk to girls of her own age. It's a lot of fun for the princess as she has been alone her whole life, and she asks the slave girls if they would like to become her friends. Anna and Shara both agree to this proposition with massive smiles on their faces. At this moment, Cannon comes back and he can see that his girls are having fun with each other. The girls are happy to see their master return, and he says that he has bought a few things for them. Anna wanted clothes, but Cannon admits he's not the best when it comes to picking them. Either way, he hands over the clothes that he did buy for Anna, and she seems to be pleased with what she has been given. Rico and Shara join in on the fun, and this prompts Cannon to comment that the three of them are really getting along with each other. It makes him wonder if he should accept Rick's proposal of taking Rico with him. Now, Cannon turns to Shara and tells her that he has gotten something for her too. Since the elf girl did not say anything in particular, Cannon went ahead and made his own choice in buying her present. After handing over the gift, our hero tells Shara that he has to talk to Rick about a few things, so he will be going out of the room now. After he leaves, Shara opens the box and immediately blushes when she sees her gift. Anna and Rico also want to take a look, and they too are amazed to see that their master has bought a hairband for Shara. Apparently, this is supposed to be a big deal, although hairbands wouldn't get you anything in today's world. Anna states that Cannon's gifts this time have been very impressive, and Rico agrees that both the presents look really pretty. Shara still can't get over the fact that her master bought her something even though she said she did not want a gift. It basically just goes on to show how much he cares for his slave girls. Now, Rico says that it's not always necessary for Cannon to reward the girls with gifts, so they want to understand what she means. The princess states that sometimes, a simple petting of the head is also an affectionate way to reward someone you care about. However, this statement seems to do something to Shara as she makes a rather shocked face, much to the surprise of the other girls. What exactly could be on Shara's mind right now? Does she want to get more than a pat on the head from Cannon? Also, what kind of information did our hero extract from the imposter butler? Like, share, and subscribe if you also want a harem like Cannon. Show this video enough love and I'll make the next part to show you exactly how intrusive our hero's thoughts can be. Okay then, I'll see you in the next one.